90%. That's the number I've come to after more than 20 years standing in an emergency room. 90% of the patients I've treated for sudden blood sugar spikes had eaten at least one of the 7 foods I'm about to tell you about just hours before. Not exotic food, not anything expensive. Foods sitting right now in refrigerators, on kitchen tables, in grocery carts of families everywhere. So let me ask you something before we start. Are you eating food number 4 every single day without even realizing it? Stay with me for a few minutes. I promise this won't be a long, pointless video. Every minute of it could save you from an ambulance ride nobody wants to take. I'm Sarah. I've been a nurse for 24 years, most of it in the ER, the place people jokingly call the back door of the hospital because almost everyone who walks through it is having one of the worst moments of their life. I've seen more blood sugar emergencies than I can count. Some patients stayed alert enough to talk to me. Others weren't even sure where they were. What still haunts me isn't the illness itself. It's knowing that so many of those emergencies could have been avoided if someone had just told them sooner. Before we get to the 7 foods, I want to ask you for something small. If you find this helpful, please hit subscribe so I can keep sharing what I've learned from thousands of hours at the bedside. And please, leave a comment telling me your age and where your blood sugar stands right now, normal, pre-diabetic, or already diagnosed with diabetes. I read every comment and it helps me know who I'm talking to in future videos. Now, let's count down, starting with number 7. Number 7, sweet liquor and beer. A lot of people think alcohol only affects the liver and the heart, not blood sugar. That's a dangerous misunderstanding. When you drink alcohol, your liver, the organ responsible for regulating blood sugar, has to stop almost everything else it's doing to deal with the alcohol first. Picture your liver as a manager who only has 2 hands juggling several balls at once. The moment alcohol shows up, that manager drops the other balls to catch it. The result is your blood sugar swings wildly, sometimes spiking because sweet liquors and beer carry hidden sugar and starch, sometimes crashing hours later because the liver couldn't keep up with releasing stored sugar. I once treated a patient who had 2 beers with friends one evening and was rushed to the ER at midnight with a dangerous blood sugar crash. Shaking, cold sweat, barely able to speak. He told me afterward, "I thought beer was fine. I ate a full dinner first." Nobody had ever told him that the combination itself was the danger. If you drink occasionally, always eat with it and pay closer attention to your body for several hours afterward. Number 6. High glycemic fruits eaten in large amounts. Durian, ripe jackfruit, very ripe bananas. Let me be clear right away. I'm not telling you to give up fruit entirely. Fruit has fiber, vitamins, things your body needs. But there's a big difference between enjoying a small piece and eating a whole plateful because it's just fruit. What's the harm? These fruits carry a very concentrated amount of natural sugar, and eating a large portion in one sitting can spike your blood sugar almost as much as a slice of cake. I remember one afternoon, an older gentleman was brought into the ER after a family weekend gathering where he'd eaten nearly half a durian because the grandkids loved it and I wanted to join in. His blood sugar was so high that the doctors kept him under observation overnight. That doesn't mean you should refuse to enjoy family gatherings. Just keep the portions small, and if you can, pair it with something high in fiber or protein to slow down how fast the sugar hits your bloodstream. Number 5. Sweetbreads and sugary breakfast cereals. I call this one the quiet betrayer because it shows up right at breakfast, the meal so many of us assume is the healthiest one of the day. A slice of sweetbread with jam, a bowl of cereal coated in sugar seems harmless enough. But it pushes your blood sugar up first thing in the morning, and that effect lingers through the rest of the day. What's worse is that because it's a habit repeated every single morning, the damage builds up quietly over time until a checkup shows your A1C has crept up more than you expected. I once cared for a patient who ate the same cereal every morning for years because it's easy, you just pour milk on it. By the time she was hospitalized for a blood sugar-related complication, She genuinely couldn't believe her healthy breakfast had played a part. Number 4. And I want you to pay close attention here, since this is the one I mentioned at the very beginning. Bottled sauces and condiments, like ketchup and BBQ sauce. This is where sugar hides best. Nobody thinks they're eating sugar when they squeeze a bit of ketchup onto their fries or brush BBQ sauce onto a piece of grilled meat. But if you've ever read the ingredient label closely, sugar is often one of the first 3 ingredients listed. The problem isn't one spoonful, it's using it over and over in nearly every meal without ever thinking of it as something sweet, so we never guard against it. I once had a patient who was managing his blood sugar carefully with medication, eating what seemed like a controlled diet, yet his numbers kept swinging unpredictably. After asking more questions, I found out he used ketchup and BBQ sauce in almost every meal because he thought food tasted bland without it. Once he cut back and switched to lower sugar seasonings, his blood sugar stabilized noticeably within a few weeks. Number 3. Dried fruit and raisins. This is one of the most misleading foods on the list because we automatically label fruit as healthy. But once fruit is dried, the water is removed, and the natural sugar becomes concentrated many times over compared to fresh fruit. A small handful of raisins can carry roughly the same sugar as an entire large bunch of fresh grapes. And because they're small and easy to eat, we tend to eat more without noticing, one handful while watching TV, then another. I once treated an older patient who kept a jar of dried fruit on the counter as a healthy snack instead of candy. She never imagined that this seemingly wholesome habit was quietly driving her blood sugar up day after day. Number 2. White rice and noodles eaten in large portions. I know that for many families, rice is part of the culture, part of every meal for an entire lifetime. I'm not telling you to give it up completely, but refined starches like white rice and noodles, eaten in large amounts, get converted to blood sugar almost immediately, faster than most people realize. It behaves in the body almost like table sugar, just without the sweet taste to warn you. This matters especially for older adults because as physical activity naturally decreases with age but portion sizes stay the same as they were decades earlier, the body has a harder time processing that starch efficiently. I once had a patient proudly tell me, "I barely eat meat, just rice and vegetables. That should be good for my blood sugar." But when I asked more, his rice portion was 2 to 3 times larger than recommended. Rice isn't the enemy. The portion just needs to match your current age and activity level. And the first food on this list, the one that surprised me most when I was still new to this job, bottled fruit juice. This might be the most misunderstood food of all 7, because it's labeled 100% real fruit, no added sugar, sounding completely harmless. But when fruit is juiced and the pulp is removed, the fiber that would normally slow down sugar absorption is stripped away too. What's left is a concentrated liquid of natural sugar that hits your bloodstream almost instantly, with nothing to slow it down. Drinking a glass of fruit juice can affect your blood sugar almost the same way a glass of soda would. I remember a patient, a woman living alone, who drank a glass of orange juice every morning thinking it was the best way to get her vitamin C in her later years. She was rushed to the ER with a dangerous blood sugar spike, and what shocked her most wasn't the diagnosis. It was my question. Did you know a glass of orange juice can carry as much sugar as a few slices of cake? She went quiet for a moment, then said, "No one ever told me that." And that's exactly why I made this video today. I want to tell you about one patient who has stayed with me for years. Her name was Dorothy, 72 years old, living alone in a small apartment in Columbus, Ohio, ever since her husband passed away a few years earlier. Her children lived far away, calling once a week to check in while she handled everything else in her daily life on her own. That morning, as usual, she had a bowl of cereal with milk, a glass of orange juice, then rice with leftovers for lunch, and a handful of raisins for dessert, because she thought it was the healthy choice. By afternoon, she started feeling dizzy, unusually thirsty, her head spinning. She assumed it was just old age catching up with her, so she lay down to rest. But by evening, instead of improving, it got worse. She couldn't even stand up to reach her phone. Fortunately, a neighbor dropping off mail found her collapsed on the kitchen floor and called an ambulance immediately. When Dorothy arrived at the ER, I was the one who admitted her. Her blood sugar was so high the entire team had to act fast. While we ran fluids and monitored her, I sat by her bed and asked what she'd eaten that day. She listed each item so naturally, never suspecting that these ordinary foods were the cause. When I explained it to her, I didn't see anger in her eyes, just a quiet sadness. She said, "I really thought I was eating carefully, Sarah. No one ever sat me down and told me any of this." That sentence stayed with me for a long time, and it's probably part of why I'm standing here talking to you today, instead of just standing in the ER waiting for the next case. So if there's only one thing you remember from this video, let me leave you with a few concrete things you can do starting today. First, take a minute to check the ingredient labels on the sauces, condiments, and cereals in your kitchen. Just look for the word sugar or its many other names on the list. Second, if you're drinking fruit juice every day, try switching to whole fresh fruit instead, so you keep the fiber that slows sugar absorption. Third, pay attention to your rice and noodle portions at each meal, and consider scaling back if your portion is bigger than the size of your fist. Fourth, with dried fruit and raisins, keep the portion small and controlled and avoid leaving an open container out where you'll keep reaching for it without thinking. And finally, pay attention to how your body feels after meals. Dizziness, unusual thirst, unexplained fatigue are all signals worth taking seriously, not brushing off. Before I close, I need to be clear about something important. I'm not a doctor, and everything I've shared today comes from what I've personally observed in the ERI. It isn't a substitute for personal medical advice. If you're taking medication for diabetes or anything related to blood sugar, please don't change your diet based on this video alone. Always talk to your doctor or pharmacist before adjusting anything, because every body, every health situation is different, and only the person actually monitoring you can give you advice that truly fits your case. Now, I'd like to hear from you. Out of these 7 foods, which one are you eating regularly that you never gave a second thought to before? Leave a comment below. I genuinely want to read every one of your stories. And if this video helped you, don't forget to subscribe, because next week I'll be talking about the early warning signs of prediabetes that so many people, maybe even someone close to you, are missing every single day without realizing it. See you in the next video.